What's going on, guys? Welcome back to BlackTide TV. In today's video, I've got something a little bit different, but something that a lot of you have been waiting for quite some time. I promised this at the end of my campaign live stream. We're finally looking at a campaign review for Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. Now, your ears did not deceive you. I did just say that I live streamed this entire campaign. Two different parts. I'll link both parts in the description and card in the top right corner. Definitely check those out if you haven't already, or if you're just looking at the game, you're not sure if you want to get it or not, to get a feel for the really action-packed, like, full-on combat of this game. That is the entire campaign, every mission, every side mission in two parts. Roughly took about 7 hours, a little under 7 hours to complete, which is it's on par for a Call of Duty game, but we're getting into a full review here today, and I'm really excited to do it, so let's get started. Now, before we get started, I need you to understand my background with the Call of Duty franchise. I've never personally purchased a Call of Duty game exclusively for the campaign. I always purchase it for the multiplayer. I use the campaign as a warm-up, and for the most part, especially with the most recent Call of Duty games, I haven't gone back to complete the campaign on extra difficulties. I haven't gone back to complete the campaign or do the campaign again because I enjoyed it so much. It's just not my thing anymore. Back in the Modern Warfare series, and even in the Black Ops series a little bit, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, never with Black Ops 3, but the Modern Warfare series, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, I did go back and I played them again sometimes, depending on which title you're talking about. Modern Warfare 2, I must have easily gone back and completed the campaign in that game 50 to 60 times, and that's no exaggeration. I love that game. It's one of my favorite games of all time. The campaign was super action-packed. It made you really feel for the characters. I really enjoyed that game, and not to mention that, although it did have a short playtime, it felt like it lasted forever because there was so much going on in the game. So with that super action-packed feel, it felt like it was lasting a long time, but I could easily play the entire campaign in one day. So usually you look at a game and it's got a short playtime, and that's usually a turn-off for most players. Most players are like, oh, well, it's only gonna, like, the campaign mode in a Call of Duty game generally is like 6 hours-ish. Usually you look at that for any other game and you go, oh, 6 hours, like, that's nothing. I can only play this campaign, like, I'll finish it in a day and then I'll have nothing to do. Well, that's why the bread and butter of the Call of Duty franchise is multiplayer, is zombies, is those special modes that you play after you're acclimated to the game. That's what I've always used campaign for. I've always started with campaign. I'll play the campaign first so I get a feel. I'll try and pick up as many weapons as I can, get a real good feel for all the weapons and what weapons are going to be the best and how to play the game to the best of my ability. And then I'll go into multiplayer and I'll just immediately start stomping people because I have that experience. Where a lot of people pick up this game exclusively for multiplayer and they'll just go ahead and instantly start playing multiplayer and their KD will just drop on day one because they don't know what weapons to pick up. They don't know what to go to. They don't have that practice from single player. Now, of course, a lot of Call of Duty games, they take that single player experience and they completely muddle it up when they bring it over to multiplayer. Like, you'll have a weapon in single player that's fully automatic and really amazing, and then you get it into multiplayer and it's a burst fire, like the IMR from Advanced Warfare. That is like my go-to example of this. It was super amazing. It was fast firing. It was really great in the campaign mode. Multiplayer was a 4-round burst, like really weird weapon, really hard to use. It was like a strange weapon you had to get used to in the multiplayer because you come from campaign and you're thinking that it's going to be this great weapon, and then it's totally not. So sometimes campaign does it right in making itself, well, a really good warm-up for multiplayer. Sometimes campaign does it really, really well, and you just want to keep playing campaign. You don't even want to go to multiplayer or zombies or anything like that. But most of the recent Call of Duty games have not done that for me. Most of the games outside of the Modern Warfare series, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, I have not even returned to play them on higher difficulties because I'm just not that interested in them anymore. They're not gripping. They're not games that make me really go, oh my god, that was so good, I need to play it again. And the same thing goes with Infinite Warfare. Now, that isn't to say that Infinite Warfare is a bad game. By all means, it's a pretty great game. It's just not a game that I can see myself going back and playing again. The campaign mode anyways. Multiplayer, I come back and play every day, but that's just because it's multiplayer and it's a grind, and that's what you do with a Call of Duty multiplayer game. Campaign mode, I honestly can't see myself coming back and playing this campaign again. however compelling it was. It's just that I feel like after you've experienced it once, you've pretty well seen it all. Nothing's going to change in this. There isn't like altering storylines. There isn't different playthroughs. You are going to have to play the same missions again. All the missions are going to have the same outcomes. It's not going to matter. It's just like any other Call of Duty game, except the characters in this Call of Duty game aren't as connective with you as some of the other Call of Duty games. So Modern Warfare series, I mentioned that I've replayed that series quite a few times just because the characters are extremely compelling. I really have a connection with those characters, Captain Price and Soap McTavish and all of those characters, Ghost from Modern Warfare 2, Commander Shepard. You just know those names off your head. When you play that game enough and when you develop this feeling, this connection with the game, you definitely understand those names when they're brought up, and you just instantly have a go-to emotional response when you hear those names. And the names of the characters in this game and your responses to those names aren't as pronounced. They're better than some Call of Duty games. The characters, they're a lot better, but compared to Modern Warfare, my top dog when it comes to Call of Duty campaigns, not so much. Now, the characters, you do remember them. There are some very unique personas, and this is very much a character piece. This game isn't just a kill everybody you see, kill the Nazis kind of shooter game. It's not a game where you just run in here, big action movie, and you just shoot everybody and kill everybody and win. It's a character piece. It's about a commander and having to deal with the consequences of his actions. Now, of course, you don't get to make any of the decisions, which takes away from that element. Like, for example, there's a game called Spec Ops: The Line, which I'm sure you've probably heard of if you have been around in the video game kind of section of pop culture in the last little while. But Spec Ops: The Line, there was this very, very controversial mission where you had to decide either to use white phosphorus on these people, or I believe you could choose to do some other method. And when you chose the white phosphorus method, you didn't just get to go, okay, yeah, let's throw this poisonous gas in here and then just move on to the next level. No, you had to walk through and you had to notice your mistakes, that white phosphorus killed all of these innocent civilians, and you have to walk through and look at all of their dead corpses, and it makes you feel like, oh my god, I'm responsible for this. And I feel like that's what they were trying to do with the consequences of your actions as a commander on the ship in Infinite Warfare. It just didn't work out that way. But just because you don't get to make the decisions yourself. But as far as the characters themselves, the characters are extremely compelling. I actually remember the characters out of this game, and I haven't played the campaign in a couple weeks. I just jumped on and played this one mission really quickly just to get some gameplay, but I finished this campaign a week, maybe 2 weeks ago. I still remember the names of the characters. I still remember their personas. We got Salter. She's like one of my favorite characters out of any of the Call of Duty campaigns. She's just really compelling. She's got this hard exterior that you don't think anything could get to her, but you really feel the connection between your player character and her, and you really feel the history. And when you almost die in an episode, you can, or in part of this campaign, I'm just gonna call it an episode, a mission, whatever. When you almost die in one of those missions, you can see that she kind of breaks down about it, and she's worried that you're going to die, and she doesn't want that to happen, because you know that there's a history between these characters. There's Ethan, who's a brand new character to your squad, to Salter and your character, who honestly I can't remember the player character's name, but the Ethan character is a robot. He's like a robot companion, and he brings this humor to the world, and he brings this light to the world where everything else you're doing is dark. It's very much a survival game. You're trying to fight for Earth's survival, and he kind of just brings out this lightheartedness that makes you realize, like, it makes you think, yes, everything we're doing here, this is for the greater good. We're having a good time about this, and he just brings this element to the game that you wouldn't find anywhere else. You've got Omar, who's like this really kind of, he's against you at first. He's this Marine, and he's like this tough guy persona, and he's really against you at the beginning, but then as you go through and as you kind of do the things that he finds acceptable, he starts to respect you more, and you become a bigger character in his life, and your relationship starts to build. So it's like you're building relationships with all these characters, and I find that really compelling, and it makes the game work really well. Now, moving towards the end of the game, this is where I find that this is why I'm not going to be coming back to the game. The end of the game, it just ends in such a way that it's not interesting for me to come back and play this game because, one, as you're playing through the game, you don't get to make different decisions. It's always going to be the same decisions. Sure, you can walk through a level in a different way and maybe find a different gun and try out something new in each level, but you don't get to make different decisions. You're always going to have to come back to the same decisions, and it's always going to result in the same ending, which is an extremely depressing ending. The end of this game sucks. It's not a heroic, yes, we won the battle, we're the best kind of ending. It's more like a consequences of war kind of ending. I'm trying to stay away from as many spoilers here as I can, but it really much deals with the consequences of war and the results of your actions. That's how the game ends, and I find it super compelling. I'm trying to compare it to a certain type of movie. It's like a really intense, suspenseful thriller movie where you might go through and you'll watch it the first time, and the first time your heart will be beating like, oh my god, this is happening, this is crazy. But the next time you go to watch it, you're like, well, I know what's going to happen next, so it's not as exciting for me. And that's probably why I'm not going to play this game again. Now, the missions themselves are pretty fun. The time of the game isn't that long. It's not like a game that's going to take you forever to complete. There are all these new side missions and stuff, but they don't add any extra time to the game, which is a downside. I expected that we'd have a 6-hour main campaign and then all these side missions like the ship assault that I'm doing in the gameplay you're seeing. I thought that they would add on to the time, but they're actually included in that 6-7 hour general time frame for COD. Most Call of Duty games are 6 to 7 hours long. Same here, it took us just under 7 hours, and that was with commentary, live streaming, walking around, looking at things, trying to find weird things in levels and stuff, and just reading the chat, getting caught up on chat. So it took I'd say for a general player, it would take about 6 hours to complete this game on regular mode. So it's nothing different compared to other Call of Duty games where you're not going to be playing it for hours on end. I assumed you would be with this talk of the side missions and all that stuff. And the side missions really aren't that amazing. They're not that spectacular. They're just like one-off little things like attack this ship, and then once you attack the ship, you get some new upgrade, and then you can use that for your main mission. But there wasn't a whole lot to do in this game. It was pretty linear. It wasn't like Black Ops 3 where you could just go through and do whatever, even though it didn't really make sense to do whatever in that game either. But this game, I find myself thinking that it was a good game. It was a really good game. It was probably one of the best campaigns that I've seen out of Call of Duty so far. Is it super memorable? Yes. I will remember these characters, and I look forward to seeing what they do with the characters that remain in the next couple games that they come out, if they do bring out an Infinite Warfare 2, 3, like they said they want to. But will I be playing this game again? Likely not. I know the outcome. I don't want to go through that again. It was a great game, especially when you got on that emotional connection with your characters, and once you kind of felt out how each character kind of works. And it was compelling. There was a lot of really good action in it, and it kept you going for those 7 hours that you got to play, or 6 or 7 hours that you got to play. As far as buying this game exclusively for the campaign, I would probably say you shouldn't do that. It's not worth it, but if you are going to play multiplayer in the long run, I definitely suggest you pick up this game. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one.